I'm talking about climate change. I care about climate change. I've been vegan. I cycle where possible. I recycle religiously. Nick's totally with me on this one. But whenever we talk about these measures and the ills of long-haul flights and diesel cars, I'm beginning to feel like there is an elephant in the room, and it's not just Nick. It's this. Nothing you do in your life to improve your carbon footprint can come even close to the impact of this one simple measure: have one less child. That's right. A recent study found that each extra child you have monumentally eclipses all your other contributions to reducing carbon emissions. The richer the nation you live in, the greater the problem. Why do we endlessly obsess over separating our rubbish when the most effective way to combat climate change is so glaringly obvious? The cultural sensitivities are clear. As a parent, I am the last person to lecture others about the meaningfulness of having children. But it's because I have a child that I care about the world she'll grow up in. And the more children we have, the more troubled a world that's going to be.
Well, then you would hate my family because I am one of 6. And if you had suggested to my family not to, to have one less child, that would be my amazing little brother that I adore. One of my biggest joys, if not the biggest joy that I have in my life, is my family, my nieces, my brothers, my sister. When we get together, it brings me so much joy. And if you said to me, OK, reduce the number of kids and you can live an extra 20 years, I'm happy with my family. I'm happy with, having shorter time on Earth and it being quality, joyful time.
But I'm not saying you should get rid of one of your siblings. Just to be clear.
Sometimes I would be willing, though. Sometimes they annoy me. I would be up for that sometimes. But, no, on a serious note, I think that actually these things will correct themselves, because I think if you look in the UK as well, women are having children older than what they used to. And I think that by pure biology, we will be having less. Like, if you give me the opportunity to have 6 kids, I'd love to. Unfortunately, we have children later in life, and it's probably not practical to have those numbers anymore.
I'm afraid Afua is absolutely right, but this is one of these nettles that governments very rarely grasp. When Indira Gandhi tried to grasp it in India, she ended up on a funeral pyre. It doesn't go down well in the hustings, but I think it's incredibly important that we have a population policy, just as we have a climate change policy. The two things are completely
Just before you guys come in, can I just show you? We spoke to...
Do you sense some rising frustration?
I do. I will bring you in. We spoke to a woman in Australia who's got quite an extreme commitment to this. Just listen to what she had to say. This is Harriet Spark.
I know these views can sound really extreme, but I'm just being realistic. If I can't have children naturally, and I'm committed to creating a better world through my own actions, then I can't justify having children through a sperm donor or IVF. I know plenty of women that can have children naturally and are deciding not to because of the impact of climate change.
So some people are taking this really literally. And I think, for me, one of the issues is, and I'm interested to hear what you guys think, is that our foreign policy and our international development policy is to try and control population growth in the developing world as a way of reducing poverty and also, if we're honest, reducing migratory pressure on European countries. We preach to other countries that they should reduce the number of children we have. I have never heard a senior politician in this country even raise it. When I saw this statistic, it was the first time I even knew that having a child has such an impact on your carbon footprint.
How are you going to police it?
Well, there are lots and lots of issues around it. Majid, what were you going to say?
I think it's a bit of a no-brainer to say that if you're not alive, you're going to have a zero carbon input. I mean, that's basically what we're saying here, right?
And it's a bit of a simplification.
Well, you're saying just don't have a child and it's going to have a zero carbon input. The way they work this out, this figure, by the way, is they basically projected the carbon imprint of your child and then its children, and then divided that between the two parents. But there's some assumptions there, for example, that they are going to carry on reproducing at the rate that we are. We already have some of the lowest reproduction rates in the world, in the West. And I think, though it's laudable, because certainly climate change is a big issue, I think there's a far more pragmatic and realistic solution on the horizon, which is already showing signs of huge success. And that is a tech solution to this problem. Because we talk about, you're saying that after having a child, the next biggest factor is selling your car, avoiding long-haul flights, and being vegetarian. Now,
What
those
a fun
three...
world you live in.
That's not the solution, Nick.
Oh, right,
Yeah,
thank God.
no. I'm saying
tune
that's
in
what they're
again.
God
saying.
forbid we interfere with your quality of
Right,
life.
the tech solution is the following. Very soon, within 30 to 50 years, we're all going to be driving electric or being driven around in shared electric cars. I think the same will apply to flights. And you talk about vegetarianism. Within 30 to 50 years, there will be an identical replacement to meat that will be grown in the labs. And I think the tech approach to this is going to fix most of the problem.
What is
without
so
us having to tell
significant
people
about
not to
this?
have
I know
children.
you want to come in, Nick. Can we just see the graphic again? Because yes, driverless cars, vegetarianism, these are all great, but they are completely eclipsed by the carbon
population.
imprint of having an extra child. And that's my
those
issue. I'm not
numbers-
saying don't do these other things, but why do we talk so much about these things and we never even mention the fact that the extra children that we have are having this huge impact
But
on
we have a
carbon
problem in
emissions?
Europe. We're not having enough children.
Well, there are the tensions,
Well, this
obviously,
is-
of the
there's no
ageing
replacement.
population.
And this
Nick.
is the key. I mean, we're having this conversation in the United Kingdom. Admittedly, it can be seen all around the world with Sky News. But the 9 countries that are projected to have most of the world's population growth over the next 2 or 3 decades are in order: India, Nigeria, the Congo, Pakistan, Ethiopia, Tanzania, the USA, Uganda and Indonesia. You'll neatly notice there that the UK didn't feature in it. So whatever we do here is it going to make a blind bit of difference to the rest of the globe?
It is, because
so why can't I have any more fun, have a little bit of ha-ha and have a baby and drive a car with a petrol engine?
I'll tell you why, Nick.
Although the
Because
likelihood of my having any ha-ha...
Right, the average British person produces about 7 tonnes of carbon in their lifetime. Double that for you.
Right.
Think how much hot air
Hot
he
air, I
produces
do,
in
I
his
know.
lifetime.
The average person in Bangladesh produces half a tonne in their lifetime. So each extra child someone in a developed country has a much greater impact than
I
somebody
agree,
in a poor
Afua,
country.
with those figures. Those figures are correct, but I still think...
I get your issues with
yeah.
the extrapolation
Yes,
on us
but also
having
on the
children.
population projections that Rachel read, they are also based on certain assumptions. That actually, the rates of reproduction in those countries are falling. And
Not very much.
But they are falling, and I think they will continue to fall as prosperity rises. And it's about prosperity that if we bring tech solutions in, that we can find solutions.
But Professor Nawaz has just told us that soon we're going to have meat that isn't meat.
Yeah.
We'll find a solution to the carbon crisis anyway, so we can
Let's
carry on
just
having
think about
babies.
it,
Well, actually,
I thought Magda was going to say the solution is we're all going to have sex with robots and not. And we can't obviously reproduce with
Some of us have. That was
robots.
called My First Marriage. Anyway, we go.
I'm talking about you having your heart.
That's from the film Ex Machina, isn't it? That's
How are
what
you going to police it? This is
Yeah.
what I don't get.
Yeah, no,
What are
I'm
you
not.
gonna do?
So, just to
Whereas
be
you
clear,
can-
I am not saying
Yeah.
we should be like China and have a one-child policy and start policing it. I'm just saying there are a lot of people who feel very conscious about climate change
So they
and
can
try
choose not to have
really
a kid
hard.
if they want to.
Well, the first thing is that
I'm not in that
they probably
category.
don't
Hands
even
up,
know.
who's got kids?
What does this prove?
Well, I mean,
Have you? How many?
2. Oh, sorry.
2.
Please don't shout at me.
3, and I'm one of 6 as well. And my father is a population expert, so you can imagine how much teasing he's had over the course of his lifetime. And I have to say, he completely agrees with Afua for every reason. You've got to bring down population both in the West and in the
Well, hang on, if we
developing
could cut down
and
on the
in
number
the
of Johnsons,
developing
I
world.
support. We could reduce some of those.
So, Michelle, did you just say you don't care about climate change?
No, of course I didn't say
So
I don't care about
when you-
climate change.
so-
What I said was, if you're someone who cares about climate change and your solution to that is not to have more children, brilliant, good for you. I do care, but I'm not going to say, and as a result, I won't have children. That's not going to happen.
No, but would you consider limiting the number of children you
one.
have now that you know this statistic?
I've just realised something.
The statistic would have no influence on my number of children.
Light
at
bulb
all.
moment.
No.
Light bulb
What?
moment. The reason that they have such a big carbon imprint, these children that we're not meant to have, is because they're doing all the behaviours that I'm saying my tech solutions will fix in the first place.
That's what you said
Basic
already.
number. So the point is that no. I've just realised something. They're going to eat. They're going to grow up to eat meat, drive
So your
cars.
children are going to have very low carbon
But
footprint.
if we get rid of this stuff, we won't have to worry about the population element to this, because the only reason they'll have a carbon imprint is if they're continuing to eat meat, drive petrol-driven cars,
heat
and
their
fly
houses
planes.
as-
So let's
like
fix the
Afua.
problem for what it is, which is the cars and the flights and the meat.
But you see,
which
you
is gonna
still
get fixed.
seem perplexed by what I'm
you're
saying.
right. No, I'm
that
not
I
perplexed.
wouldn't.
I'm
It would not
I'm
influence my
perplexed.
decision.
I don't want to tell anyone else what choices to make. When I learned about this, I have one child. I would love to have more children.
Will you have a second?
I would love to have more children, but when I learned about this, it did make me think. I feel like somebody who's committed to trying to help reduce climate change. And now that I know that every child I have is going to have such a big contribution to carbon emissions, I'm not saying I won't have more
No,
children, but it will
which is
definitely
what
make
I'm
me
saying.
think
it
about
won't,
it differently.
because if we fix these problems, your child won't have
That's
a
a big
carbon
if.
footprint.
Yes,
We're
Maggie,
going to
if-
fix them. We're on track to fix
If
them.
we knew we were going to fix it, we wouldn't
Talking
ever
about
debate climate
conserving
change.
energy, we have to conserve our energy for the next debate, because